Welcome back to Light the Fuse. Continuing in our Paul Hirsch series. Charles, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. Are you sad that we couldn't bother Paul at home this time?
Yeah. There was a great, element of, you never know when he's going to kick you out. With a Zoom, he can just sign off anytime.
Yeah. It's always a thrill to get to talk to him. He is an absolute legend. And I'm so glad we got to close out the trilogy. I mean, hopefully we return with some, we'll do the sequel trilogy in a few years with Paul.
Or maybe a prequel trilogy.
Or a prequel trilogy where he just talks. I don't know what he's going to... How are we going to do that, Charles? Go back in time?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, we got to work on that. We'll figure that out.
We should also this week talk a little bit. It's 15th anniversary of Mi3 this week. Came out on May 5th, 2006. We did some good Patreon episodes recently about Mission Impossible 3. And so I thought that was worth bringing up, for the 15th anniversary. We broke down Vic Armstrong had a chapter in his book, The Legendary Stunt Man and Stunt Coordinator. He had a chapter about Mi3 we talked about. We did, there was also a creative screenwriting article that interviewed JJ and Orson Kurtzman. And so we talked about that. You should definitely check out our Patreon, patreon.com/lightthefuse. And yeah, I mean, happy 15th to Mi3. We just did a live tweet of Mi3, I think. We're recording this ahead of time, so I'm assuming that we did it. But we will do a live tweet of Mission Impossible 1 for that anniversary coming up. And stay tuned to our Twitter for that. Also, we should mention again quickly, Fathom Events is showing Mission Impossible 1 in theaters. Select cinemas nationwide on May 16th, 17th, and 19th only. Theatrical event includes the film and a featurette called Mission Catching the Train. Tickets and participating locations can be found at fathomevents.com. That's pretty fun. We're going to go to one of those screenings. I cannot wait. It'll be my first time back in a movie theater.
Okay.
In over a year.
Wow. Yeah, probably for me as well. I've got a branding idea for the Mission Impossible 3 anniversary.
Okay.
I think you're going to love it. The wedding anniversary. The wedding's in there. And we love the wedding. It's our favorite part of the movie. We could make a little cake topper thing of Ethan and Julia. I don't know. I think it works. I'm excited about it. I just came up with it. I thought you would appreciate it. But you know what? It's okay. Not all great ideas are immediately embraced.
I've got mixed feelings about that wedding scene. We know.
What else, Charles? What else is going on?
Well, there was something Ben Wright, one of our Patreon followers and our good friend, brought up in our monthly Skype chat that there was a Mission Impossible parody that we missed in our episode about spoofs, and we've never talked about it before. But on Bob's Burgers, Season 8, Episode 20, Mission Impossible, there was a spoof of Mission Impossible there. So I just wanted to bring that up in case anybody was interested. I thought that was kind of fun.
There's also a new Mission Impossible spoof just this year in a movie called Flora and Ulysses, which I'm sure you will watch with your daughters at some point, Charles. It's about a super-powered squirrel. It's on Disney+, and there is a hang and drop reference there as well.
Really?
Yeah.
It's crazy. They just keep having it 25 years later, and we're still doing it.
Get some new ideas, Hollywood. You know what I mean?
I look at it as that's how ingrained the movie is still.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Very powerful.
In the culture.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to bring up somebody, those Lego ideas?
Yes.
Lance Strickland shared this with us on Facebook. It's a fun Lego design of all the Mission Impossible movies, and I'll include it in our show notes. I'm going to send it to you right now so you can look at it.
Okay.
Because it's pretty damn cool. It includes on each corner, each side of it, it's a different mission movie. So they have the cliff climbing from the end of Fallout, the cliff climbing from Mi2 on one other side. On top of it is Ethan Hunt dangling from Langley. And then there's also him going down the side of the slanted building in Mi3 in Shanghai.
Yep.
And then there's, of course, on the side of Dubai. So those are all the sides of this Lego design, which are really cool. I think you can vote for it to exist, right?
Yeah, it's not getting a lot of positive feedback.
It's not getting a lot of support.
No. But, I think it's kind of messed up because, Ethan was in that Lego game or whatever.
Lego Dimensions?
Yeah. So this should have already happened as far as I'm concerned.
I know. Well, anyway, I think it's pretty fun. Some fun pictures. Just thought I wanted to bring it up. Someone shared it with us on Facebook, and it's pretty cool.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to talk about before I jump into my plugs?
Just get Paul's book a long time ago in a cutting room far, far away. It has chapters about the first mission and Ghost Protocol. He edited both those movies. So you should pick it up, either a paperback or hardcover, or there's also an audiobook. And this week is fun. We get into some good Star Wars talk that we'll circle back to at the end. And of course, we try to get him to talk about Cruise's hair, and we get just a tiny bit from him about it. And that's it.
Yeah, there's something that I'm excited about talking about in this one as well. And we will talk about that after the break. But before that, I got to get to my favorite part of the show, which is giving our shout outs. And this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon, and everyone should check out his podcast, My Favorite Album, where he interviews a different musician, songwriter, actor, or filmmaker about the music they love and how it's influenced them and their work. This episode is also brought to you by John B., as well as Real Estate Interests LLC, commercial real estate advice for growing companies. And what they want companies to know is that they can consult with them, even if they are not looking to buy or sell. They help companies save and strategize too. So again, thank you to all of our sponsors. And if you want to be a sponsor, you can be a sponsor. Just go to our Patreon page, give us some money, and we will do it. Right, Charles? We are.
Yes, absolutely.
We will do whatever you want. So yeah, we will follow up after the interview, but here is Kevin's criminally prosecutorial music. What theme is he ripping off here, Charles?
It's the prosecutable, probably, right?
Prosecutable, yeah.
The plot theme. It's the plot theme.
Okay, come on. Here we go. We'll be back.
I have some other projects in mind. After my son has been sending me, little clips of my grandchildren over the years, and I thought I should do something with that stuff. So I probably will at some point for a birthday present or something.
It's nice to have a collection of home videos edited by Paul Hirsch. It's nice having Paul Hirsch as grandpa.
What do they know?
You mentioned in the book that Brian De Palma was going to direct Taxi Driver at one point. So you almost had a chance to work on the movie. How close was that to happening?
Well, he and Schrader had worked together on Obsession, and Schrader had written Taxi Driver, and I forget what happened. Maybe it was Carrie came along. I forget the timing of it. But anyway, Schrader was eager to get, they were eager to get the project on. Brian was busy, and he said, why don't you use Marty Scorsese, who had only done Mean Streets or maybe he had done Alice before that. I don't remember. But that was the idea.
Right.
And then Marcia Lucas was working on the picture and called me and said, can you come help out? Because Benny, and it would be great, and we need help. And the studio nixed it because they didn't want to fly me out to L.A. I was based in New York at the time.
Right. You mentioned Benny. Talking about, I think in the book at one point you say that what was the quote? I have it somewhere in here about how he was a great storyteller with his music.
Yeah. Yeah, he was more than a composer. He was a filmmaker. And I remember when we got to the murder sequence, we were mixing the murder sequence, and he said to the mixer, he says, can you do something to it to distort it? So, this was early days, or maybe middle days, not early days, but middle days in the sound technology. And they had a little echo box that, it's hard to explain, but it was a loop, a tape loop that went round and round. There were two tape heads, and you could control the distance, how far apart the two heads were. So the closer together they were, the shorter the echo, and the further apart they were, the longer the echo.
Right.
So anyway, he hooked up this thing, and Benny listened to it. He says, can you do it more? Smear it so you can't hear any of the notes. And I thought that was remarkable for a composer. You would think he'd be precious about wanting to hear every note, but he was only interested in the dramatic effect, even if it meant distorting the music beyond recognizability. But that murder sequence is extremely, it's powerful because it's so crazy. I mean, it was frightening in a way to think that lived somewhere in Benny's brain, that he could come up with that music. It's really an insane cue.
So of all the composers, I mean, I don't know, I guess maybe you don't, maybe, I don't know if you want to pick a favorite, but I'm curious, is Bernard Herrmann, was he the top of the heap? Was he the best of the best?
Well, for what he did, I mean, I think John Williams is extraordinary. I mean, there's a number of them who are, and Nino Rota, and, I always think you should just judge people by the best work that they do.
Right.
So in that score, you'd have to include Morricone too, But they do, and Jerry Goldsmith wrote some great scores.
Yeah, Drew and I are both big Jerry Goldsmith fans. We love him.
Yeah, Basic Instinct. I mean, you put that on and listen to it, and it's just the atmosphere it creates is just,
yeah,
extraordinary.
The range that Goldsmith had in his career, to me, like he mastered every genre. I feel like every genre he has one of the greatest scores.
Yeah, but John's been nominated 50 times or something.
Yeah. I think it's like a John Williams. I think is like it's mandatory that he has to be nominated every year. It's like it's written in the Academy rule book, I think.
Well, it's not for no reason.
No, yeah, of course, of course. Yeah.
I mean, when I was nominated for Ray, which is now 15 years ago or whatever it was, I was at the Oscars and I bumped into John. I said, "John, they're gonna carve your head on Mount Rushmore next," But I think he'd only been nominated like 40 times at that point, But he's such a sweet man.
His score for The Fury is great, which you worked on, obviously. I think that's one of his more underrated scores.
Yeah. I think he on that particular one, I felt that he relied a little bit too much on a single theme that,
Okay.
Interesting.
But, that was a quibble. But I remember going to lunch with him and his music editor. He had a friendship with this music editor, older man named Kenny Wanberg, who had a wicked sense of humor. And they used to they had this wonderful relationship. And they were talking about a picture that I wasn't working on. I was just meeting them for lunch because I forget why. I was working at Fox, I think, and they were... Oh, I was working with Kenny, and he says, "I'm having lunch with John. You want to come along?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So they were talking about some other project, and John said, "What do you think?" And Kenny said, "Of the Q," and he said, "Well, I'm not really sure." And John said, "A little too English milk bath?" And he said, "Yeah, I think that's right." I thought, what a way to characterize a Q, the too English milk bath.
Do you remember what the movie was? Or what the cue was?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just remember the phrase.
Yeah, you also talk about going to Elfman's house, obviously working Elfman. You told us in a previous interview also about working with Elfman and that whole process of him coming in to Mission Impossible late.
Yeah.
But you tell this great story about going to Elfman's house and seeing, because, Elfman notoriously has these crazy collections of all these heads and interesting things, and you went and sat on his couch and petted the cat, and then you were in for a surprise.
Yeah, well, the cat. I thought the cat was sleeping, but it had been stuffed. It was dead and stuffed, and soft. It wasn't hard like most, stuffed animals are hard.
Wow.
They're filled with something stiff, but this was kind of soft, like a bean bag or something. I don't know.
Right. Well, and you said that De Palma told you that he'd never worked so hard with a composer in his life when he did Elfman.
Yeah, I said to him, if you had sat every day with Alan Silvestri, you would have got a great score.
Right.
I thought Alan would have been, he and Brian would have worked fine together, but they never tried. From the day they met, it was all completely based on trust, which was not misplaced, I thought, but at least they should have made sure that they were on the same page. And, in the weeks that elapsed between when they met and when they showed up on the scoring stage, Alan never called Brian and said, "Listen, I'd like to play you a few things just to make sure, we're talking about the same stuff. And Brian never called Alan and say, listen, I'd like to hear what you're doing just to make sure that we're on the same page. And it never happened. So they got there, and the first cue they started to play, and Brian said, sounds like Song of the Volga Boatmen. And I knew that was it. That was over. That was curtains.
It's too bad. We both love Silvestri. It would have been nice to hear what Silvestri would do with the Mission Impossible score. But in the end, I think I'm very happy that Elfman did it, because he's actually, Elfman's actually my favorite composer, and hearing what he did with the Mission Impossible score is amazing.
Uh-huh. Somebody sent me a clip recently called Darth by Darth West. And they extracted Cary Grant from North by Northwest and inserted him into backgrounds that they took from Star Wars. But the interesting thing for me was they scored it with Benny's music. So it's Star Wars imagery, but it's Herman's music.
But with Cary Grant in there too, right?
With Cary Grant, yeah.
I love that. I want to see that.
Yeah, in North by Northwest, I don't know if you remember, they drug him.
Yeah, they get him really drunk and make him drive off a cliff or whatever.
Yeah, he's in a car.
Yeah,
he's in a car. So they put him at the wheel of the Millennium Falcon, flying through the asteroid. I
love
asteroid
that.
fields. It's really good. Darth by Darth West.
Well, this year was the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, which is pretty exciting. I mean, 2020 was, like, it has come and gone. But do you have any more stories about Empire Strikes Back? Any stories that nobody's heard? We really want that fresh Paul Hirsch.
The scoop. You want the scoop.
Yeah, we want the scoop. Yeah.
Gosh. I don't know. I mean, a lot of my memories are based on having told the stories.
Right.
So maybe I'm remembering the story I told rather than the thing that happened,
Todd Vaziri, who's been a guest on our show, and he's an amazing visual effects artist, he unearthed this thing in Empire Strikes Back. It was, there's a part where, obviously, spoiler alert, Darth Vader says, "I am your father," and he's shaking his fist. And Todd Vaziri was looking at it. He finds these little things in movies, and he pointed out that it looks like in that shot, you rolled it back. Like it went forward and the shot wasn't long enough and you had to reverse it back. Is that possible? No? But he did say that you did it in the first Star Wars, right? With the Tusken Raider when he's holding the thing above his head?
I didn't do it. It was done either by Richard or Marcia before I got there.
Okay. But so it wasn't. So to be clear, it wasn't done in Empire Strikes Back.
I can't take credit for it. No.
Okay. Well, then we'll have to let Todd know. Hopefully he's listening.
No, it wasn't. I gave a talk at USC earlier, about a year ago, early last year. And this guy in the audience. Now, for many years, when people call out things that are mismatches, from one angle to another, if like in North by Northwest, Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint are on the train, they're in the dining car, and they're cutting back and forth while they're talking. And if you look at the level of the water in the glass, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down,
Right.
That kind of continuity, that mistake that people love to catch, So for years, whenever anyone points out a continuity mistake, I say something like, tell it to the guys at getalife.com. And it's just a joke that I've been telling for many years. And sort of at this talk at USC that I was giving, it sort of rolled off my tongue in an unfortunate way, because this guy in the audience, turns out he wasn't really a student. He was a little bit older, but he was a real fan. And to make matters worse, he had driven quite a long distance to be there that night.
Oh no!
And he raised this question that was, quite legitimate about some mismatch or some. I think what he said was that when Luke is in the trench, just before Han blasts Vader out of the sky, you see Vader firing. He's got Luke locked in on his targeting device,
Right.
and he fires. The next thing you know, he's spinning out of control, and and he said, "What happened to that shot? He was locked in, he fired, and what happened? Why didn't he hit Luke's plane? Luke's ship?" And I said, you can find the answer to that on getalife.com. And the whole place burst into laughter, and I immediately felt terrible. And the guy felt humiliated, So I forget what you asked that prompted me to tell that story, but I did feel. If he's listening, I apologize once again. I tried to, and then I looked for him at the end of the talk to apologize, and he had left.
Oh.
He had left in the middle. He'd walked out.
Oh no.
Yeah, he was terribly wounded, and he felt humiliated, and I think humiliation is the worst of human emotions.
Wow. So this has haunted you. Well, hopefully he hears this.
It has nagged at me.
You mentioned Vader getting away, and in your book you talk about how that was something that came pretty late in the process, right? George had that idea of late in the process to let him escape, and you were like, why would you do that?
I didn't say, why would you do that? I said, well, it kind of smacks of sequelitis, doesn't it? I mean, and he said, yeah. I thought, okay, he's smarter than I am.
Probably, I guess it was a good thing in the end that he did that, probably.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about the crawl at the beginning of Star Wars, and how the deleterious effect it has had on filmmakers' thinking subsequently about putting up information at the beginning of a movie. Because the reason George did it, I think, was to capture the spirit of the Saturday afternoon serials that inspired Star Wars in the first place.
Right.
And they would always have, in our last episode, Flash Gordon was on the planet so-and-so, and Emperor Ming was blah, 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 So it was sort of like the equivalent of what we have now, which was previously on,
right?
And they catch you up in the story where you are. Well, although I find that the previously on, whoever cuts those things very often it doesn't help you catch up with the story. I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, it's just like, it's the exemplar of group thinking with these, you can imagine a committee of people sitting around saying, what should we have in there, So anyway, but that's beside the point. But the idea was to evoke those Saturday afternoon serials with this crawl going off into space, And I thought, what if we hadn't had it at the beginning? What, would the audience really have been confused? Would they not have figured it out? What was, what's contained? What's the information contained in there that's so important to know? If you hadn't known, you'd see a big ship, a little ship. They invade. Soldiers look like creatures from the Black Lagoon, except they're in white. They come in. This black guy in a black cloak and helmet comes in, and the princess is, and the robots go to the planet, and you would have figured it all out. It wouldn't.
Right.
It doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going on. There's a conflict. There's a war going on, and so I'm coming in the middle of it. But the consequence of that was, on fantasy films, from then until now, they often feel like they have to give the audience the rules. Here are the rules, There's this planet, there's this other planet, and they can travel by means of this and that. And for many years, they've been at war. And, they give you all this information about stuff that you don't really care about. And the audience hasn't figured out that they need to know or want to know. And, they've sort of forgotten that, well, I don't know if they ever knew, but for my money, the best way to start a movie is to raise questions in the audience's mind. Lee Child, who wrote the Jack Reacher stories, was asked once, how do you manage to write such page turners? He said, it's very easy. You raise questions in the reader's mind, and then they keep turning the page trying to find out the answer. I remember seeing a movie, I think it was with Cornell Wilde, and it's set at the edge of the Grand Canyon. And there's a guy in the first shot. There's a guy standing there looking out at the view, and another guy's been hiding behind a bush. He leaps out and he tackles him, and they start to wrestle on the edge of the Grand Canyon. And I thought, this is great. I don't know what's going on, but immediately you're intrigued. Like, what is this? What's happening here? You know,
Right.
Which brings us around to Light the Fuse. You know, Mission Impossible, the scene that was missing from Ghost Protocol, the big ice.
The
lake
snowmobile
battle.
chase. Yeah.
The snowmobile, you know, that was cut for budgetary reasons, was meant to be intercut with a scene on the train platform in Prague or Budapest.
Yeah.
So without the ice battle, the scene didn't work. So what happened was we took the scene out, except for the very end of it. So the picture starts with a guy bursting out of a door, being chased. They're exchanging shots. He jumps off the edge of the roof, hits a button, a big cushion blows up. He lands on it. He shoots a couple of more guys. He gets away. He checks to make sure that his bag is okay. He turns the corner. This woman appears. She shoots him dead, steals the bag, and goes off. And so you have no idea what's going on. And it's a great way to start the movie because you think, what was that about? You know, and now you're waiting to hear what the answer is to that question. And you don't find out until after we break Cruz out of prison and he's in the back of the van with Paula and they tell him all this stuff. And then we use the material that we had shot that was meant to go at the beginning of the movie, and we used it as a flashback in a different context, and it works great, you know. So my lesson to you directors out there, you young directors, don't start with information, start with questions.
Right.
Give the audience questions, not information.
That's good. Good advice.
But don't confuse them.
Well, actually, speaking of the opening crawl, you had mentioned to us before that you thought you had, because you told us the story about Brian De Palma and the other guys helping rewrite the opening crawl, and you said that you might still have the opening crawl lying around your house somewhere. Did you find it? Do you have it?
Oh, I didn't look for it. My memory is sort of like Swiss cheese, you know.
Okay, he's going to look for it now. He's left the interview.
I'm looking.
We can't see him, but we can hear him. He says he's looking.
Okay, I don't know where it is.
Oh,
All right.
too bad.
Sorry.
Keep looking at some point later. When
Maybe I will.
So throughout your book,
Yeah.
you describe everybody's hairstyles and beards very well. At one point in the book, you talk about George having a full beard and his hair was long, and you said occasionally during our chats he would pick up a pair of scissors, absently reach behind his head while continuing to talk, and snip an errant curl that had grown out too far. Yeah. So you're so good at describing people's hair, but you won't discuss with us Tom Cruise's hair, and we want to put it to you again. Will you talk to us about your favorite Ethan Hunt haircuts in the Mission Impossible series?
Oh, I think he always looks good.
Yeah. Is there any hairstyle that's better for editorial reasons? I mean, you got to work with him at his shortest and his longest.
Is that right?
So, yeah, 1 and 4. Well, maybe 2 is longer.
2 is longer,
but it's
Legend,
pretty close.
But 4 is on
I
the
think
longer
Legend,
side.
his hair was really long.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about in the Mission Impossible franchise.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I mean, do you like the look of one or the other?
I don't know. I don't know. No opinion.
We just find it very weird that you pay attention to everybody else's hair so much in
But you won't
this book.
You won't engage with us here now about Ethan's hair.
Wow. Well, I like that you like him in every style. Do you think it's too long at all in any of them? Did he freeze?
No.
Okay. And we're back. Charles, how'd you feel?
We almost got him to do it. He won't talk with us about Cruise's hair.
Well, There's an even bigger bombshell in this episode,
Oh, yeah?
which is we're refuting one of Todd Vaziri's bullshit claims on Twitter. And I'm so happy.
Whoa, wow. Shots fired, Drew.
Listen, he's a fan of the show. He's been a guest on the show, but somebody had to take him down a peg or two. He is like Mr. Movie Man on Twitter, and I'm just going to say this. He got his ass handed to him today.
Wow.
What do you think?
I'd be curious to know from Todd why he thinks... I mean, when you look at the GIF that Todd has, and maybe we'll post in our show notes, it looks like it does reverse back a little bit. But, I mean, it's possible maybe one of the other... Well, actually, no, I think Paul's the only editor on Empire, isn't he?
Yeah.
But it's possible. I know Lucas did a little bit of editing on Empire. So, I mean, but it sounded like Lucas re-edited the first act or something, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I would love to hear Todd's reaction to this. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of hogwash, but you know, I'm excited. It's fun to have that conversation, you know, in the show, and to be a part of that was super fun.
Yeah. It's fascinating to hear him talk about the opening crawl of Star Wars and how it's been a horrible influence on modern filmmakers.
Yes.
And then also he actually did find the opening crawl and he did send it to us, but we're not allowed to share it.
That's true. That's true.
I think what he said was, you didn't get it from me, but it's like, we can't put it out there and say, where else would it have come from?
Yeah, no.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. It definitely needed to be revised, but I think there are other versions of it. I Googled around and looked around to see other versions of the original crawl, and there are other ones, and this is definitely different from those, so it is kind of an exclusive, but I just don't think that we really can put it out there, unfortunately.
Now you know we can never put it out there, Charles, because everyone will know where we got it now. That's okay.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
One day when we can be together, we'll show it to you on our phone or something.
Yeah.
Take it with you.
I mean, I thought maybe we could read it out loud here, but that's probably just as bad.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was great. I mean, we've got one more episode left, so we're not totally
Oh, and also
done.
he talked about that short film called Darth by Darth West. I looked it up, and there's actually 2 episodes. And in the second one, he's driving the Millennium. Cary Grant is driving the Millennium Falcon drunk, and they're both pretty fun. We'll include both the links to both of those in the show notes. Did you ever see those?
No, I never did.
So they're pretty fun. It's Cary Grant inserted into Star Wars. Cary Grant from North by Northwest. It's pretty awesome.
I love that.
And again, get Paul's book, A Long Time Ago in a Cutting Room Far, Far Away. It's on paperback, hardback, audiobook.
Kindle.
And Kindle, yeah. And you should definitely get it. And also check out our Patreon, patreon.com/LightTheFuse. We do bonus episodes every week. We're covering all the latest news about Mission Impossible, all kinds of other bonus stuff. It's really worth checking out. Please do. Every dollar counts in helping us make this show possible. And with that in mind, also our TeePublic page, which is linked from our website, lightthefusepodcast.com, in the merch section. You can buy a shirt or a mask or whatever. There's all kinds of merchandise there, and some of those dollars go to help the show, and also you're showing the support by spreading the word. And then follow us on social media at LightTheFusePod. And what else, Drew?
Do we need to tease anything coming up? We actually don't know what's coming up. Because we had planned on doing a whole thing.
We have a lot of possible things.
But we thought we were going to be locked into some fun Top Gun Maverick stuff, which we still will be doing, but not until we can see the movie and everyone else can see the movie. So that'll be later this year. But yeah, we'll keep on trucking. We're going to be, putting out stuff come hell or high water. We've also got some really great John Wick episodes coming up too.
Yes, we do.
We have recorded those, and those were really, really fantastic. 2 total legends in movie making. So yeah, that'll be really great. But yeah.
Yeah, stay tuned to our Twitter and everything for the live tweet of Mission Impossible 1. And we'll be doing we got a couple of fun ideas of what we're going to do for the 25th anniversary. So that's coming up, and go see the movie in theaters. We can't wait to do that.
Ghost Protocol's anniversary in December too.
Yeah, in December. This is the 2021. It's just the year of awesome anniversaries for Mission. It's great. So I also have to give a shout out. I want to give a very special thank you to Dustin Catalan and Sonia Miranda. Thank you to Dustin and Sonia for making this episode possible. Both of you have been such great supporters of the show, and we really appreciate it. And I also want to give a special thanks to our production assistant, Abby Smith, who's a huge help all the time, and to our editor and mixer, Luke Burson, who does such great work for us. And, of course, Kevin Blumenfeld, who does all of our legally dissimilar music. And I guess that's it. Come back next week for the end of Return of Paul Hirsch, Part 3.
Yep.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcast@gmail.com. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.